time for Countdown's number 2 story, tonight's worst persons in the world. Number 3, CIA director nominee Leon Panetta, not directly his fault, but this he needs to address and fast. After day 1 of his confirmation hearing, that would be last Thursday, Mr. Panetta was met by a group of reporters in the hallway outside the hearing room. Chris Strom, a reporter from Congress Daily, tells Countdown he asked Panetta if he could ask him a couple of questions. Got no response, asked again. That is when Strom says, and witnesses confirm, somebody grabbed him by his right arm, pushed him aside, and held him there briefly. Nobody's quite sure who did the grabbing and pushing, but the man was with Director-designate Panetta on the way in and out of the hearing, and he needs to be told what you can and cannot do, and he needs to be told that and publicly by Mr. Panetta. Our runner-up, Michael Steele, the new chairman of the Republican National Committee, for now, not merely accused by the finance chairman of his 2006 Republican campaign for the Senate of paying $37 grand in campaign funds to a defunct company run by his sister for services never rendered, and paying $75 grand in campaign funds to a law firm for services never rendered, and transferring $500,000 in campaign funds from one bank to another without authorization. Not only that, but Mr. Steele is apparently not all that smart. In an interview with George Stephanopoulos of ABC, Mr. Steele said the stimulus program is not going to create jobs. Quote, what this administration is talking about is making work. It is creating work. Needless to say, Mr. Stephanopoulos was a little nonplussed. But he replied, that's a job. No, it's not, Steele replied. A job is something that a business owner creates. It's going to be long-term. George shook off the glancing jab. So a job doesn't count if it's a government job? That is a contract, Mr. Steele announced proudly. It ends at a certain point, George. You know that. These road projects that we're talking about have an end point. Mr. Steele's inference is that private sector jobs don't have an end point, which will be news to the 2.5 million Americans whose private sector jobs had their end points since last Labor Day. I'm thinking Mr. Steele's job running the Republican National Committee has an end point of maybe next month, which will really be too bad for the Democrats. But our winner, Roy C. Smith, professor of finance at New York University's Business School and a former partner at Goldman Sachs, writes what is called an essay in today's Murdoch Street Journal with this appalling headline, Greed is good. Wall Street bonuses are getting a bad rap, but they're an important and useful part of the financial services industry. Taking them away could hamper the economic comeback. Smith tells of the nightmare of his Wall Street youth when during the recession of 1973, the year the Grinch stole bonuses, and he was, quote, horrified to learn that my annual take-home pay would be limited to my small salary, which accounted for about a quarter of my previous year's income. Several colleagues with good prospects left the firm and the industry for good. We learned that strong pay-for-performance compensation incentives could cut both ways. They left the industry and were replaced by other Wall Street guys who are a dime a dozen. You don't like having to suffer like everybody else, of being denied bonuses when you have failed and you have crashed the economy? Then go. Disenthrall yourself. You're a businessman. You're only a businessman. You're lucky the villagers are not outside your office with torches and pitchforks. Roy C. Smith still having nightmares after the horror of the Christmas without a bonus. Today's worst person in the world.